So in order to clear things up and go through Blockchain 101, I present you guys to Sean Out.
Thank you very much for that, Zach. So it was the moment that changed my crypto life forever. Standing in front of me was this big orange ATM machine, sandwiched between a vending machine and a regular ATM machine, all in the middle of Sydney at Westfield Shopping Centre. It took me about an hour and a half, but I finally managed to achieve my goal of withdrawing 50 Australian dollars. I'd moved an experiment. I'd literally printed money and converted electricity into a note. Never mind that it cost 600 New Zealand dollars in electricity, nights, weekends, and some sick leave to figure out how all this stuff worked. But it is actually true. Folks, welcome everyone. My name is, as Sean has mentioned, I'm a software trainer, a blockchain researcher, and thanks to Crypto Launchpad, NEM, Blue Block, and BizDojo, in the next 20 or so minutes, I want to take you on a journey talking about Blockchain 101 and the landscape you see here, talking about cryptocurrencies, blockchains, smart contracts, ICOs, and tokens as well. So, first of all, trying to explain blockchain can be challenging at times because it's like trying to explain what the internet is back in the 1990s. We all know that the internet is a bunch of computers connected together. But when we try to explain it, we usually try to say what it does and what value it provides. For example, we say that the internet gives us information at our fingertips, or that we can order pizzas at the click of a mouse, or connect with friends and family very easily in ways that's pretty much second nature to us now. Blockchains is very similar. It's a bunch of computers connected together to form this network, and the secret sauce are all the applications that are being developed now on top of the blockchain. So a blockchain really is a database. That's pretty much what it is. But it's got a couple of cool features. First of all, it's distributed and it's decentralized. So it's distributed because information is stored in lots of different places, so that if you lose information on one computer, it's backed up somewhere else. It's called redundancy. It's also decentralized because there's no single central organization that controls your information. It's also backed up by amazing mathematics using cryptography so that the information is encrypted and it's secure. And you control it with what's called a private key. When you control it, you can then have full ownership of it so you can do what you want. So let's take an example of comparing blockchains to something that we are familiar with. In this case, Excel. Here, if you think of the rows inside Excel as the transactions, each sheet I've called block 1, block 2, block 3, and the actual Excel program as a blockchain. Here I've got block number 2, where the very first line tells me what the last block was. The last line tells me what the next block will be, and in between, again, a whole bunch of transactions. The key, however, is that at the heart of this decentralized network is this thing called consensus. Because if you think about it, how does a network of computers decide anything? There's no central authority like a bank to go ahead and tell you who owns what, or where, or how much, etc. So, these computers around the world join together And when you make a transaction on the blockchain, you send some bitcoins here, or you'll see some Tron tokens, for example, what really happens? It all goes into the network, and then you've got these computers that then grab the transactions, and then they need to order them, just like what a bank does. So you've got a computer over here called a miner, and they go ahead and organize the transaction, and then they propose to the blockchain, this is going to be the next block. But then we've got another computer over here doing the same thing. It'll go into the network, grab a whole bunch of transactions, and then say, well, actually, I think this is the block. That should be the next in the chain. There's another computer here, another one over there. On this network of, at the moment on Bitcoin, there's about 9,000 computers. Now, how do you choose what is the next block? Well, Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin, decided to have a game where all these computers would then solve a puzzle. And then the person who solves it first would effectively have their version of the block placed on the blockchain. So this puzzle, the computers or the miners would solve, and once they've got the answer, they'll literally shout out, bingo. And then they'll tell the answer to everyone else. All the other miners would go ahead and verify that that is correct. And if it is, they have no other choice but to accept that miner's version of the block. What happens next is that on the network, all the other miners go ahead, accept that block, grab another bunch of transactions, and play the game again. And this happens every 10 minutes on the Bitcoin blockchain. On the Ethereum network, it happens around 15 to 20 seconds, so different blockchains have different speeds at which they play the games at. So if you're looking at blockchains, there's actually a lot of different parts to it. So there's the cryptocurrency aspect, there's the network, the decentralized network we talked about. There's also the mining aspect, because all the computers on the network, they need to be rewarded somehow. They're not offering their services for free. It takes electricity, time, and investment. There's the data or the information side, because in Bitcoin, all you're doing is transferring a number from one person to the next. But you can actually modify that number and say store your blood type, your height, your eye color. In the health industry, for example, you could store ownership of land or shares or stocks. It's really up to the application developer on what they want to store. And of course, it's all wrapped up with game theory and economic incentives, because everyone is coming together in this network to have some sort of financial gain. No one wants to make a loss. What happened next was that as the system evolved, you had different blockchain platforms being invented. You can see some here, you may recognize some of them. There's Ethereum, Lisk, Wave, and of course our very own NEM, which you'll hear more about afterwards. So all these platforms came out and they said that they were better than the previous one, or their predecessors. Some of them would solve scalability, some of them would have higher transaction output, some of them would have amazing smart contract features, and some of them would be really easy to program or to create applications in. So that was the Bitcoin and the blockchain era and how that evolved. Next up, we had the invention of smart contracts, or the reinvention, because they've been around for a while. What smart contracts are a way of developing applications and putting it onto this distributed network called the blockchain. So instead of writing a small software application and putting it onto a server, you would deploy it onto this network and it would just sit there waiting to receive information and to act on an event. Who here has seen a smart contract before? No one? This is what it looks like. It's just actually a piece of code. Nothing to be scared of, nothing mysterious. A programmer types this up, and then deploys it onto the blockchain network. So it sits on every single computer on the network so that you cannot stop it, you cannot destroy it, and it can just continue working. So that was the evolution of smart contracts that really came about in about 2014, in particular with the Ethereum network. What happened next, though, was that these smart contract developers discovered that they could create these things called tokens. And when they discovered that, they then did these wonderful things, such as selling these tokens for large amounts of money in a very short time frame for the promise that you could use their application. This then led to the wonderful world of ICOs. Now, ICOs stand for initial coin offerings. And some fun fact, the very first ICO was in 2013, called MasterCoin. It's renamed now to Omni. The largest ICO is actually from Telegram. They raised $1.7 billion earlier this year. The fastest ICO was Brave. They raised $35 million in 30 seconds. And the longest running ICO is something called EOS. They've been running for just under a year, and they've raised a whopping $4.1 billion. Absolutely crazy. Without an application, just a white paper and an idea, actually. Here's a screenshot of the very first ICO. You'll see it was launched on the 31st of July, 2013. So in a couple of weeks, this will be 5 years. Someone made a comment. Someone sent you 16 Bitcoins. And the creator, J.R. Willett, he said, holy crap, people are actually sending me money. A lot of money. Holy crap, Batman. So this was the very first ICO, and people were actually sending him real money. So what I did was I took all this information, and in the last 9 months, I documented this at a website called the ICO Train. There we go. And I've analysed a whole bunch of ICOs from way back in 2013. So in 2013, there were only 2. So it's Omni or MasterCoin and Next. In 2014, there were about 8 ICOs. 2015, about 5. And then in 2016, I only documented 11 out of the 50. And in 2017, there's only 17 out of the 400 that occurred last year. You can see there's a summary. It gives a link of how much they raised, and there's a link to the actual address where you can verify the amount that they raised. There's a link to the white paper, the token sales document. It tells you how many tokens they created, the supply, circulation, etc. So from that, what I did was I squeezed all that information into a book with a very good friend of mine, Mr. Thomas Power, based in the UK. And just a quick plug there, it's coming out in about 6 weeks. A couple of coupon discount codes if you're interested as well. But basically, it documents how this industry has happened, and in particular, where it's going. And I'll share with you some of that this evening as well. We talked a bit about cryptocurrencies, blockchains, and how they evolved into smart contracts, and with ICOs. Next up, we have tokens. The whole world is slowly being tokenized. And you can see here, there are a whole bunch of tokens created in, say, the health industry. There's medical chain, nurse token. In the energy area, solar flare, grid coin. And over here, real estate, a whole bunch as well. Literally, if you search on the internet you'll see that in each industry vertical, whether it be real estate or health or anything else, there'll be hundreds and hundreds of coins being created, many of which will be worthless, but in that pile, there will be some that will be very, very successful. Now let's take a look at why this is happening. So if we look at physical tokens, you may have a whole bunch of these in your wallet right now, but what are they? Well, you can think of it as like an IOU or a voucher, right? Because you have a company that issues these tokens, and then there's a perceived value to the holder because you can redeem it for goods and services, wrapped around terms and conditions, of course. But the thing is with tokens, has anyone actually seen this movie here, Ready Player One? A couple? This is actually quite neat because this movie is about the future where everyone wakes up and they spend most of their time with this VR headset on. They're in the virtual world and they're actually playing a game in here. But the key point being here is that this is happening. And if we look, say, 5, 10, 15 years into the future, just like what we do with Facebook and we spend all our time on social media now, we'll be spending all our time in this virtual world. And if you've ever actually experienced the virtual world with the headset on, it's actually really, really amazing. It'll blow your mind on what you can do. There's one quote from this movie that was really interesting here, and it says, people come to the oasis, which is a place in the movie, for all the things that they can do, but they stay for all the things that they can be. So if you think about this, in this virtual world, a disabled person is no longer disabled, right? You can be anyone you want. You can be any skin color you want. You can be any height you want. It doesn't matter. So this is going to be a revolutionary phenomenon that's going to occur. So the question is that when this happens, how does someone transfer value in this digital world? With tokens. The key is with tokens, using the blockchain, is that it's on this distributed, decentralized ledger that you trust the network instead of me creating a token myself using my own private database that's not open and not transparent. So this is where we're heading 5, 10 years later in the token economy. So just a quick recap here. So we've looked at Bitcoins, the cryptocurrencies, we've looked at the blockchain, smart contracts, ICOs and tokens. The question is, what about you guys? Where do you fit in? Well, if you're a developer, I'd encourage you to go ahead and learn the technology. Understand the fundamentals about blockchains. And the easiest way to get in is to learn about Bitcoin or any other ICO you may be invested in, because you can really make real money. If you're a lawyer, for example, or an accountant, there's a huge demand for understanding how this technology works with the existing regulations and existing system. So huge opportunities there. If you're in marketing, social media, again, a lot of people don't know this, so they rely on information in marketing to understand more. So the opportunities around this are endless, and in particular around investing in a lot of tokens, which I'm not a financial advisor, but a lot of people are trying to make a lot of money from this. And in particular, the ICOs nowadays, they're all about utility. So they're trying to sell you these tokens and say, well, if you buy the tokens now, you can use it in the system that we're going to create maybe 6 months later. But actually we all know that everyone's buying these tokens so that they can 10, 20, 30x 6 months down the track and you can sell it off for a lot of money. But that's all about to change. So there's a lot of opportunities in the investing world, in the legal world, marketing, social media, and in the technical world as well. So I'd encourage all of encourage all of you guys to get involved, to understand more of the space, network, come to the meetups, and just share what you know as well. So with that, thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions?